Ah, yes. Welcome back. Um, what can I say about this next artist? My band, the Smashing Pumpkins, was very influenced by sort of atmospheric English bands. And in the late 80s, we started translating that sort of atmosphere into sort of something that had a lot more power to it. Most of the English bands that we were influenced by in this time really didn't ever approach into any kind of heaviness. They stayed very much on the atmospheric side, Ride being one of the few exceptions. But this next band was probably the closest to a band that took the American end of the influences and translated it through the English sensibilities. This band was very influenced by Dinosaur Jr., especially in their guitar work, and is one of those bands that's sort of been forgotten a bit, but is really an incredible band. I really suggest checking out their work. And great, just great band. I can't say enough about this band. I really hope that there comes a time where people sort of rediscover this band. This is Swervedriver. This would be from around the early 90s, and this is one of their great songs, Never Lose That Feeling. Hello, pirates. This is your lead buccaneer, Billy Corgan, leading you on a fanciful trip through music oblivion on Rage. 1970s in America, most of us found our music only through the radio. This is pre-MTV. And Australia was this distant place. No one knew what went on there, not even me. And the first time I ever heard about Australia in any kind of context that was beyond sort of, say, a geographical context was because of AC/DC. So yes, the boys brought to the consciousness of the youth of America the concept that, yes, there's this country called Australia, and why are these weird little men making this strange sound? Recently, AC/DC released a sort of a greatest video package. I can't remember the title. Of course, it has some totally horribly inappropriate AC/DC title that has to do with sex and sort of our uncomfortability with it. But I've had the chance to watch this video package. I highly recommend checking it out. You can find this video on that package, and I've been playing the songs, particularly the stuff with Bon Scott. People in America are more familiar with Brian, the lead singer that came after Bon, because that's when the AC/DC had the greatest success in America. But I was exposed to AC/DC during the Bon Scott years, and I think Bon Scott's one of the great lead singers of all time. And his sense of humor and his great singing voice always comes through, no matter how many times you hear these songs. So I've chosen this for your pleasure. This is Dog Eat Dog by AC/DC. Every once in a while, a band comes along that you make up your mind about, and you say, ugh, whatever. Somewhere in the 90s, I heard about this band from Australia where the kid kind of looked like Kurt Cobain, and they were kind of doing this grunge thing, and he was only about 16 years old, and he thought, ugh, teeny boppers doing our thing. And so I, like a lot of people, I think, dismissed Silverchair from the beginning because it was seen as sort of this post thing of rock. And yet, somewhere out of this great, incredible artist emerges. Daniel, I think, is such a undervalued talent. And I think this song particularly shows the heart that he has. And then now when you look at Silverchair and you know, having had some time to look at him, I mean, who at 16 years old wouldn't be making the music that they love and be imitating their heroes and get lost in that? I think Daniel's really proven that he's a great artist, and I hope he keeps making music for a long time. I'm a big fan. So this is Anna's song by Silverchair. Good evening, Australia. I'm in charge. My name is Billy. I'll be your pilot. Just sit in the back, have a drink, put your feet up, and let me drive this plane right into the ground on Rage. Rock and roll is an ephemeral concept. One time I was on a famous talk show in America, and I sort of casually tossed off the term rock and roll, and the interviewer said, "What is rock and roll?" And my brain hurt, because it's like, how do you explain what rock and roll is? It's an attitude. You either have it or you don't. It's sort of like a stink. You know, I got the rock and roll stink on me. I was born into rock and roll. My father's a musician. You know, I used to go down in the basement when I was a little kid, and there'd be all these mirrors covered in pink, white powder. I'd think, what is this? Didn't know that they were down there doing drugs. So rock and roll is sort of an ephemeral concept, and sometimes we're not sure who to turn to tell us what rock and roll is. Sometimes it's an old blues guy sitting on a corner. He's got the rock and roll feeling. Sometimes it's some pop singer having a sort of moment that someone's produced for her, sort of imitating rock and roll. But no one brings the rock and roll like this next singer. This man believes it. He started an international controversy a few years back because he felt that people were overusing the evil hand, because he had started the use of the evil hand in rock and roll, and he was rightly so sort of upset about this, that this image, that this power that he knew how to sort of manifest was something that was not to be trifled with. Now he's a small man, but don't let that fool you, because he's got a big heart. I'm talking about Ronnie James Dio. Ronnie James Dio was in a band called Elf. Richie Blackmore, the guitar player of Rainbow, was in a band called Deep Purple, which of course is very famous. And Richie had left Deep Purple, and he saw this diminutive singer singing in this band called Elf, and he said, "I want to start a rock and roll band with you. We're going to start a rock and roll revolution. We're going to call it Rainbow. Long live rock and roll." That's what they sang, and they meant it. Me too. One time I was watching MTV in America, and they were interviewing Neil Young. This has been about 10, 13 years ago, somewhere in there. And they were asking him about being a classic artist and being an older artist, and he kind of spit on the ground. He said, "I don't give a damn about any of that stuff. I'm making music right now. I don't care about the past. I don't care about the future. I only care about the music I'm making right now." And I thought, right on, Neil. That's the way you do it. This is a song my band Smashing Pumpkins used to cover way back in 1988. A song I always loved, and notable for one of the great all-time solos in a rock and roll song because he only plays one note. This is Neil Young, Cinnamon Girl. Hello. Now, being from America, we don't know much about your culture here. We don't get a lot of information, Like, no one talks about cricket in America. I know this is mind-boggling to the people here, but no one knows who Shane Warne is in America. I do, but no one else does. Now, this country that you have sort of to your east, I know you guys have been at war for a couple hundred years. I know there's been a lot of casualties in this war, and I'm not sure if you want me to play a video from a band from New Zealand, but I recently saw this video, and I think this group is fantastic, and I immediately went out and bought their album, and I pretty much hate all music, so this must be pretty good. This is a band called The Bads. Check it out. It's Billy Corgan. I'm programming this thing. Check it out.